In the Morrison family, I was the afterthought. Marcus was the successful one. MBA from Boulder, career in finance, married with 2 kids, living in a McMansion in the Denver suburbs. Sarah was the creative one, graphic designer with her own agency, featured in Colorado lifestyle magazines, Instagram influencer with 47,000 followers. And I was Jordan. The quiet one. The one who never quite figured things out. I dropped out of Colorado State after 2 years. I worked as a freelance web developer making what my family assumed was barely enough to survive. I lived in a small apartment in Fort Collins. I drove a 2011 Subaru with 180,000 miles on it. At family gatherings, the conversation would go like this. Marcus just closed a $2.3 million deal. Mom would announce proudly. Sarah's agency was featured in Denver magazine, Dad would add. And Jordan's still doing the website thing. The website thing. As if building responsive e-commerce platforms for clients paying $15,000 to $40,000 per project was a hobby instead of a business. But I'd learned early not to correct them. Because the Morrison family had a rule. Success was measured by appearance. Big house, fancy car, prestigious job title. If you didn't have those markers, you weren't successful. No matter what your bank account said. And my bank account said things my family would never believe. But there was one person who knew the truth. My grandmother, Dorothy Morrison. Grandma Dorothy was a quiet force of nature. She'd worked as a secretary in the 1960s, saving every extra dollar. When her husband died in 1978, leaving her with $50,000 in life insurance, everyone expected her to invest conservatively. Instead, she bought her first rental property in Fort Collins for $38,000. By 1985, she owned 3 properties. By 1995, she owned 5. By 2010, she owned 7 rental properties across Colorado. 1. 3-bedroom house, Fort Collins. 2. Duplex, Fort Collins. 3. 4-bedroom house, Loveland. 4. 2-bedroom condo, Boulder. 5. 3-bedroom house, Denver. 6. Small apartment building, 4 units. Colorado Springs. 7. Duplex, Greeley. Total value by 2019, $2.8 million. All paid off. All generating income. All managed quietly while she lived in a modest house and drove a 15-year-old Camry. Real estate is how women like us build independence, she told me when I was 22. Nobody can fire you from a property you own. Nobody can downsize your rental income. It's freedom, Jordan. She'd started teaching me about property management when I was 19. Not Marcus. Not Sarah. Me. Why me? I'd asked. Because you're the only one who listens, she said simply. Marcus talks about his deals. Sarah talks about her brand. You ask questions and take notes. Every Sunday for 6 years I had lunch with Grandma Dorothy. We'd meet at her house and she'd walk me through her property management system. Tenant screening procedures. Maintenance schedules. Cash flow calculations. Tax strategies. Marcus thinks he's a real estate expert because he works in finance, Grandma said in 2018. But he doesn't own a single property. He talks about market trends but couldn't tell you the cap rate on a duplex if his life depended on it. What about Sarah? Sarah thinks real estate is for old people, Grandma said with a slight smile. She's too busy building her personal brand to build actual wealth. By 2019, I understood Grandma's portfolio better than anyone, including my mother who was Grandma's only child. I knew property number 1 in Fort Collins was her first purchase and her favorite. I knew property number 6 in Colorado Springs had the highest cash flow but needed the most maintenance. I knew property number 4 in Boulder was appreciating fastest but had the lowest cap rate. I knew the entire portfolio generated $168,000 annually in net rental income. And I knew Grandma Dorothy was worried about what would happen to her properties when she died. In June 2019, Grandma Dorothy called me to her attorney's office in Fort Collins. Patricia Chin was a real estate attorney who'd handled all of Grandma's property transactions for 20 years. Her office was downtown above a bookstore. Sit down, Jordan, Grandma said. I sat. Miss Chin slid documents across her desk. Your grandmother wants to transfer all 7 properties to you via quit-claim deed. The transfers will be recorded with the appropriate county offices immediately. I stared at Grandma. Why not put them in a trust? Why not wait until? Because I'm 79 years old and I don't trust your mother to execute a trust properly, Grandma said bluntly. And I certainly don't trust Marcus or Sarah to respect my wishes if they think they're entitled to something. But Mom is your daughter. Your mother is my daughter and I love her, Grandma interrupted. But she raised Marcus and Sarah to believe they're entitled to everything while you're entitled to nothing. That's not how inheritance should work. Miss Chin explained the mechanics. 7 quit-claim deeds transferring each property from Dorothy Morrison to Jordan Morrison. All deeds would be signed, notarized, and recorded with their respective county recorders' offices within the week. What about the will? I asked. What will it say? The will leaves $15,000 each to Marcus and Sarah, Grandma said. And $15,000 to your mother. Enough to make the will valid. The properties won't be mentioned because they'll already be yours. They're going to be furious. Yes, Grandma agreed. They are. Which is why we're doing this now while I'm healthy and competent. No one can claim I was confused or coerced. I'm making this decision with full mental capacity, documented by medical evaluations. She tapped a folder on the desk. Medical records from Dr. Anderson confirming her cognitive health. But Grandma, why not tell everyone? Why hide it? Her eyes were sharp. Because I want to see who your siblings really are. Marcus has been asking me for the property management passwords for 2 years. He keeps saying he wants to help me. I want to see what he does when he thinks he's going to inherit everything. And Sarah. Sarah keeps posting photos in front of my Boulder condo, calling it Grandma's little investment property, to her followers. She's already planning which properties to keep and which to sell. I want her to show me exactly who she is. My hands were shaking. This is a lot of responsibility. You've been ready for this responsibility since you were 22, Grandma said firmly. You understand these properties. You understand cash flow and maintenance and tenant relations. You're the only one who's earned this. I signed the documents on June 18, 2019. 7 properties transferred to my name. All 7 deeds were recorded with their respective county offices between June 19 and June 25, 2019. Total value, $2.8 million. Annual income, $168,000. Legal. Binding. Recorded. And Grandma made me promise not to tell anyone. Let them show their true colors, she said. Then when I'm gone, the truth will protect itself. For the next 4 years, I watched my family perform their future inheritance claims. Marcus started calling himself the family real estate advisor. At Thanksgiving 2019, he announced his comprehensive management plan for Grandma's properties. Once these properties transfer to us, I'm going to implement a full renovation strategy, he said, gesturing with his wine glass. Update the units, modernize the kitchens, raise the rents. We could increase cash flow by 30% within 2 years. I asked quietly. The family, Marcus said smoothly. Obviously we'll split the properties fairly. I'll take the 4 larger ones since I have the financial expertise to manage them. Sarah can have the 3 smaller ones. What about Jordan? Grandma asked, her voice carefully neutral. Marcus waved dismissively. Jordan can help with maintenance or something. He's good with computers. Maybe manage the online listings. Everyone nodded as if this made perfect sense. Sarah was worse. She started staging photo shoots at the Boulder condo, posting Instagram content like Grandma's investment property, learning about real estate from the best. #family wealth, #generational assets, #real estate goals. She'd never asked Grandma a single question about property management. But she sure knew how to hashtag it. Meanwhile, in 2020, Grandma gave Marcus property management access as a test. I want to see if you can handle the responsibility, she told him. Just oversee the rent collection and coordinate with the property managers. Marcus agreed enthusiastically. Within 6 months, I started noticing discrepancies. I'd been monitoring the properties closely since the 2019 transfer. Even though they were legally mine, Grandma still controlled the bank accounts and operations. She wanted to maintain normalcy while testing Marcus. But the numbers weren't adding up. Property number 3 in Loveland. Rent was $2,400 monthly. But only $1,900 was being deposited to Grandma's account. Property number 6 in Colorado Springs. 4 units at $1,100 each should equal $4,400 monthly. Deposits showed $3,600. Property number 7 in Greeley. Duplex renting for $1,800 per side, $3,600 total. Deposits showed $2,900. The missing amounts were small enough to avoid immediate detection but consistent enough to add up. I documented everything. Screenshots. Bank statements. Rental agreements showing actual rent amounts versus deposited amounts. Then I hired a forensic accountant without telling anyone. In March 2023, 4 years after the property transfers, I hired Daniel Wu, a forensic accountant specializing in real estate fraud. I need a complete audit of these properties, I told him, providing 4 years of bank records, rental agreements, and property management reports. Someone with management access has been diverting funds. I need to know how much and where it went. Daniel's report took 6 weeks. The findings were devastating. Period analyzed. January 2020 to December 2022, 36 months. Total rental income that should have been collected, $546,000. Total deposited to owner's account, $206,000. Missing amount, $340,000. The money was being diverted in small increments, $500 here, $800 there, always below typical fraud detection thresholds. The funds were being transferred to an account Marcus had set up claiming it was for property maintenance reserves. Except there was no maintenance. The money was being transferred from the maintenance account directly to Marcus's personal accounts. 36 months of systematic theft. $340,000 stolen from our dying grandmother while Marcus talked about his comprehensive management plan. Daniel's report included bank statements, wire transfer records, and a detailed timeline showing exactly when each diversion occurred. This is textbook embezzlement, Daniel said when presenting his findings. Small amounts, consistent pattern, diverted to accounts under the perpetrator's control. Any prosecutor would take this case. I filed the report with Patricia Chin, Grandma's attorney. Then I waited. Because Grandma Dorothy died 2 months later, in May 2023. At Grandma's funeral, Marcus gave the eulogy. Grandma Dorothy taught us the value of hard work and smart investing, he said, his voice breaking perfectly. She built a legacy of 7 rental properties that will continue to provide for our family for generations. I promised to honor her vision by managing these assets with the same care and wisdom she showed. People nodded. Several relatives cried. I sat in the back row and said nothing. Sarah posted 17 Instagram stories from the funeral, including one with the caption, saying goodbye to an incredible woman who taught me that generational wealth is about more than money, it's about legacy. Dove Blue Heart #family first #real estate #generational wealth. She'd visited Grandma twice in the last 2 years. Mom spent the reception accepting condolences and talking quietly about Dorothy's estate. 7 properties, I heard her tell Aunt Linda. All paid off. Substantial value. It'll need to be divided fairly among the grandchildren. I refilled my coffee and walked away. The will reading was scheduled for 3 weeks after the funeral. June 15, 2023. 2 p.m. Morrison family home. Mom had decided to handle the property division before the official will reading. A family meeting to discuss how to split Grandma's assets fairly. The whole family gathered in Mom's living room. Mom, Dad, Marcus and his wife Jessica, Sarah and her fiancé Derek and me. Mom had printed out spreadsheets. Sarah had brought a Pinterest board of renovation ideas. Marcus had brought a full presentation about optimal property management strategies. I brought 7 manila envelopes. Thank you all for being here, Mom began. I know the last few weeks have been difficult, but we need to discuss how to handle Mom's properties. Obviously they need to be divided among the grandchildren, Marcus said immediately. Sarah, Jordan and me. Not equally though, Sarah added quickly. Marcus has the financial expertise to manage the larger properties. I have the design skills for the Boulder condo and the nicer units. Jordan can maybe help with the Fort Collins properties since he lives there. We're splitting Grandma's 7 Colorado rentals, announced, standing up like this was an official proclamation. Marcus gets 4, Sarah gets 3. Jordan gets nothing. The room went silent. Nothing. I asked quietly. Jordan, you're not equipped to manage real estate, Mom said, her tone sympathetic. You dropped out of college. You do freelance work. You can barely manage your own finances. It wouldn't be responsible to give you property worth millions. Everyone nodded. Marcus smiled. We'll make sure you're taken care of, Jordan. Maybe a small cash distribution from rental income. Very generous, Dad agreed. Sarah was already on her phone. I'm thinking the Boulder condo needs a complete renovation. Exposed brick, modern fixtures. I silently slid 7 county recorder documents across the table. The first document landed in front of Mom. Boulder County Recorder's Office. Quitclaim deed. Grantor, Dorothy Morrison. Grantee, Jordan Morrison. Property, 445 Canyon Boulevard, Boulder, Colorado. Recorded, June 24, 2019. Mom stared at it. What is this? I slid the second document to Marcus. Larimer County Recorder's Office. Quitclaim deed. Grantor, Dorothy Morrison. Grantee, Jordan Morrison. Property, 1247 Riverside Drive, Fort Collins, Colorado. Recorded, June 20, 2019. These are quitclaim deeds, Marcus said slowly. Recorded in 2019. I slid out the remaining 5 documents. One by one. County recorder stamps on each one. All dated June 2019. All transferring properties from Dorothy Morrison to Jordan Morrison. Grandma deeded these to me in 2019. The room exploded. That's impossible. Sarah shrieked. Grandma wouldn't. She loved all of us equally. Did she? I asked quietly. Mom grabbed all 7 deeds, flipping through them desperately. These must be forgeries. Mom would have told me. I'm her daughter. They're not forgeries, I said calmly. Call Boulder County Recorder's Office. Call Larimer County. All 7 deeds have been on public record for 4 years. 4 years. Dad whispered. You've owned these properties for 4 years? Yes. Marcus had gone pale. But I've been managing them. I've been collecting rent, coordinating repairs. You've been embezzling, I corrected. I pulled out another folder. The forensic accounting report. The forensic accountant opened his laptop. Actually, Daniel Wu wasn't physically present, but I'd brought his laptop showing his analysis. I turned the screen to face the family. I also found $340,000 in missing rental income from Marcus's management. The spreadsheet was color-coded. Red cells showed diverted funds. Yellow cells showed the dates. Green cells showed where the money went. Marcus's personal accounts. January 2020. Property number $3,500 diverted. February 2020. Property number $6,800 diverted. March 2020. Property number $7,700 diverted. 36 months of theft laid out in Excel. My brother ran for the door. Marcus, sit down. Dad shouted. Marcus froze at the doorway, his hand on the knob. I can explain, he started. Explain $340,000 in embezzlement? I asked. This should be interesting. Mom was crying. Real tears, not the composed grief from the funeral. Marcus, tell me this isn't true. It's not embezzlement, Marcus said desperately, walking back to the table. I was setting aside maintenance reserves. For future repairs. For your personal checking account? I interrupted. I pulled out more documents. Bank statements showing transfers from the maintenance reserve account directly to Marcus's personal accounts. March 2021. $12,000 transferred from Morrison Properties Reserve to Marcus Morrison personal account. July 2021. $15,000 transferred from Morrison Properties Reserve to Marcus Morrison personal account. December 2021. $18,000 transferred. Stop. Marcus shouted. I was going to pay it back. When? I asked. After you inherited properties you thought were coming to you? After you sold them and buried the evidence. Jessica, Marcus's wife, stood up abruptly. You stole from your dying grandmother? I didn't steal. Marcus insisted. I borrowed. I was going to. You borrowed without asking, I said coldly. That's called theft. Sarah found her voice. Okay, Marcus screwed up. But that doesn't change the fact that Jordan somehow manipulated Grandma into signing over properties. Manipulated. I turned to her. I had lunch with Grandma every Sunday for 6 years. Every single week. Where were you? I was building my business. You were building Instagram content, I corrected. You visited Grandma twice in 2 years. But you posted photos at her Boulder condo 17 times, calling it Grandma's Little Investment Property, and tagging it with #generational wealth. Sarah's face flushed red. You were so busy performing your inheritance online that you never actually spent time with the woman who owned it, I continued. Grandma saw exactly who you were. Mom was still holding the 7 deeds. Jordan, even if these are real and I'm going to verify that, this isn't fair. I'm her daughter. I should have been consulted. Consulted? I asked. About what? About how you raised Marcus and Sarah to believe they deserved everything while I deserved nothing. About how you announced Jordan gets nothing at a family meeting. You never showed any interest in the properties. Mom protested. I knew the cap rate on every property, I said. I knew which tenants were on month-to-month leases and which had long-term agreements. I knew that property number 1 needed a new water heater and property number 4 had a parking issue. What did Marcus know? Marcus had no answer. What did Sarah know besides which properties photographed well for Instagram? I continued. Sarah was crying now. Dad spoke for the first time. Jordan, your grandmother clearly made this decision. But $340,000 in theft is a serious criminal matter. Yes, I agreed. It is. Are you pressing charges? Dad asked quietly. Everyone stared at me. I looked at Marcus. My brother. The golden child who'd stolen $340,000 from our grandmother while she died of cancer. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Marcus will sign a confession acknowledging the embezzlement. That confession goes to Patricia Chin, Grandma's attorney. If Marcus ever challenges the property transfers, claims I manipulated Grandma, or spreads lies about being cheated, that confession goes to the district attorney. Jordan, please, Marcus started. I'm not finished, I said. Marcus will repay the $340,000. Not to me, to a charity of my choosing in Grandma's name. The Dorothy Morrison Housing Fund for Low-Income Renters. Full repayment over 7 years. Monthly payments of $4,048. Jessica gasped. That's almost $50,000 a year. That's 1/7 of what he stole, I said. He's lucky I'm not pressing charges. This will bankrupt us, Jessica whispered. Then Marcus should have thought of that before stealing from his dying grandmother, I replied coldly. I turned to Sarah. You get nothing from the properties. But you also don't get charged as an accessory for all the times you posted content suggesting you already own the Boulder condo. Accessory? I didn't do anything. You created a public record of claiming ownership of property that wasn't yours, I said. That's fraud, Sarah. Ask your lawyer. Her face went white. And Mom, Dad, I turned to my parents. You need to understand something. Grandma didn't make this decision lightly. She made it over 6 years of watching all of us. She saw Marcus's entitlement. She saw Sarah's performance. And she saw that I was the only one who actually cared about her properties as more than photo opportunities or future windfalls. This is going to destroy our family, Mom whispered. No, I corrected. This is going to reveal what our family already is. You raised 2 children to believe they deserved everything and 1 child to believe he deserved nothing. Grandma corrected that imbalance. I gathered the deeds and the forensic accounting report. Patricia Chin will send the confession documents tomorrow. Marcus signs by Friday or I press charges. Sarah stops posting about family properties immediately. And I'm done attending family gatherings where I'm treated like the disappointment. Jordan, wait, Dad started. I'm worth $3.6 million, I said quietly. The 7 properties are now worth $3.2 million. My web development business generated $380,000 last year. I own my apartment building, bought it in 2021 for $420,000 cash. I drive an old Subaru because I choose to, not because I have to. The room was silent. Grandma knew all of this, I continued, because I talked to her about real things, about business, about property management. about building wealth instead of performing success. She knew exactly what she was doing when she transferred those properties to me. I walked to the door. "The will reading is next week," I said. "Patricia Chin will confirm everything I've told you. The properties have been mine since 2019. Marcus embezzled $340,000. And Jordan gets nothing was never Grandma's plan, it was yours." I left them sitting there with their shattered assumptions. Marcus signed the confession on Friday. Patricia Chin notarized it and filed it in her safe. The first payment to the Dorothy Morrison Housing Fund, $4048, hit the account 30 days later. But the family consequences were immediate. Marcus and Jessica separated 3 months after the family meeting. Jessica filed for divorce, citing financial dishonesty and criminal behavior. Marcus moved out of the McMansion into a 2-bedroom apartment. The house went into foreclosure 6 months later when he couldn't make the mortgage payments while also paying restitution. His finance firm quietly asked him to resign. Ethics concerns, they called it. Sarah's engagement ended when Derek's parents learned about the family meeting. "We're not comfortable with our son marrying into a family with this kind of financial impropriety," his mother had said. Sarah took down all her Instagram posts about family properties and generational wealth. Her follower count dropped from 47,000 to 31,000 within 2 months. Mom and Dad tried calling weekly. I didn't answer. They sent letters. I returned them unopened. They showed up at my apartment building, the building I owned, and were surprised when my property manager informed them that Mr. Morrison doesn't accept unannounced visitors. "Your son owns this building?" Dad had asked, stunned. "The entire building," my property manager confirmed. "Bought it in 2021. They left and never came back." Meanwhile, I focused on what Grandma Dorothy had taught me: building wealth in silence. The 7 properties appreciated from $2.8 million in 2019 to $3.7 million by 2024. I raised rents to market rate, not gouging but fair pricing that reflected current values. Annual rental income increased from $168,000 to $234,000. I renovated property number 3 in Loveland. $65,000 investment. Monthly rent increased from $2,400 to $3,200. I upgraded property number 6 in Colorado Springs. $48,000 in improvements. Monthly income increased from $4,400 to $5,800. In 2024, I bought an 8th property, a small office building in Fort Collins for $680,000. I paid cash using proceeds from the rental income I'd accumulated. The portfolio became 8 properties worth $4.4 million, generating $298,000 annually. My web development business continued growing. Annual revenue reached $520,000. I hired 2 junior developers and moved into a proper office. My personal net worth crossed $5 million in 2025. I was 34 years old. And I did exactly what Grandma Dorothy had taught me. I built in silence, managed with integrity, and let the properties speak for themselves. The charity I'd established with Marcus's restitution payments became something bigger than I'd planned. The Dorothy Morrison Housing Fund for low-income renters started with the $4,048 monthly payments Marcus was required to make. But I added my own contributions. $2,000 monthly from my personal funds. By 2025, the fund had grown to $180,000. We used it to help low-income families with first month's rent and security deposits. Emergency rent assistance for families facing eviction. Minor home repairs for elderly renters. Financial literacy classes about renting, budgeting, and saving. 47 families received assistance in the fund's first 2 years. Every recipient received a letter explaining that the fund existed because Dorothy Morrison believed housing security was the foundation of financial independence. She built her wealth one property at a time, the letter read. She wanted to help others achieve the same security she'd worked so hard to create. I visited the fund's office quarterly to review applications and meet recipients. A single mother who'd avoided eviction because the fund paid 2 months' rent while she recovered from surgery. An elderly veteran who got his furnace repaired before winter. A young family who saved $3,000 for their first security deposit through the fund's matched savings program. This was Grandma Dorothy's real legacy. Not the properties themselves but what they enabled: freedom, security, independence. In September 2025, 2 years after the family meeting, I received a letter. Marcus's handwriting. Colorado Springs postmark. I almost threw it away unopened. But something made me read it. Jordan, it began. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to reduce the restitution. I'm writing because my therapist said I needed to acknowledge what I did without making excuses. I stole $340,000 from Grandma. I spent 4 years convincing myself it was borrowing or reserve management, when I knew exactly what I was doing. Embezzling from a dying woman who trusted me. I told myself I deserved those properties because I was successful, because I had an MBA, because I looked the part. But I never actually earned anything. Not the properties. Not Grandma's trust. Not the respect I demanded. You earned it. Every Sunday for 6 years you showed up. You learned. You listened. You cared about Grandma as a person, not as a future inheritance. The restitution payments are destroying me financially. Jessica left. I lost my job. I'm living in a small apartment making $73,000 a year instead of the $180,000 I used to make. But you know what? I'm finally building something real. Something I'm actually earning instead of stealing or performing. I'm 28 months into my 7-year payment plan. That means 56 more months. Almost 5 more years of paying for what I did. It's the right consequence. And the Dorothy Morrison Housing Fund is a better use of that money than anything I would have spent it on. I don't expect us to reconcile. I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what Grandma saw in you. You weren't the successful one by our family's standards. But you were the worthy one by hers. Marcus. I read the letter 3 times. Then I did something Grandma Dorothy would have been proud of. I wrote back. Marcus, I wrote. You're right. You don't deserve forgiveness and I'm not offering it. What you did was unforgivable. Stealing from a dying woman who loved you. But I believe you're finally understanding what Grandma tried to teach all of us. Wealth isn't about appearance. It's about character, integrity, and the discipline to build something real. You had every advantage. MBA from Boulder. Career in finance. The assumption that you'd inherit everything because you looked successful. But looking successful and being worthy are completely different things. I spent 6 years having lunch with Grandma every Sunday. I took notes. I asked questions. I learned about cap rates and cash flow and tenant relations. Not because I expected to inherit anything but because I genuinely wanted to understand what she'd built. Grandma didn't choose me because I was special. She chose me because I was present. Present for lunch every Sunday. Present when she needed help understanding her property management software. Present when she wanted to talk about her concerns for the future. Present when everyone else was too busy performing success to actually show up. The 7 properties weren't a reward. They were a responsibility. Grandma trusted me to maintain what she'd built, to honor the tenants who depended on stable housing, to understand that real estate is about providing homes, not just collecting checks. You're 28 months into your payment plan. 56 months to go. That seems impossibly long right now. But here's what I've learned. The time passes anyway. You can spend those 56 months resenting the consequences of your actions, or you can spend them becoming the person Grandma hoped you'd be. The Dorothy Morrison Housing Fund has helped 47 families so far. Your restitution payments, combined with my contributions, are creating exactly the legacy Grandma would have wanted. You're not paying me back, Marcus. You're paying forward the second chance that real estate gave Grandma back in 1978. Keep making the payments. Keep building something real. And maybe in 5 years, when the restitution is paid, we can have coffee and talk about what we've built instead of what we thought we deserved. Jordan. I mailed the letter. I don't know if Marcus and I will ever rebuild our relationship. Probably not. Some betrayals are permanent. But I'd learned something important from Grandma Dorothy's 7 properties. The best inheritance isn't assets. It's the wisdom to know that wealth without character is just money waiting to be lost. It's been 3 years since that family meeting where Mom announced I'd get nothing. The 8 properties are now worth $4.9 million. Annual income, $341,000. My web development business generates $620,000 annually with a team of 4 developers. The Dorothy Morrison Housing Fund has grown to $290,000 and has helped 83 families. My personal net worth is $6.2 million. I'm 35 years old. Every Sunday, I visit Grandma Dorothy's grave. I bring coffee in a thermos, the same kind we used to drink during our Sunday lunches. The Boulder condo finally appreciated past $500,000, I told her headstone last Sunday. Just like you predicted. High demand area, limited supply. The wind rustled through the pine trees. Marcus made his 30th restitution payment last week, I continued. He's on track. Never missed a payment. The fund helped a family of 5 avoid eviction last month. They sent a thank you card. I poured coffee into the small cup I kept at the grave. You were right about everything, I said. About building in silence. About earning trust before claiming inheritance. About understanding that real estate is about people's homes, not just investment returns. A family was visiting a grave 2 rows over. 2 adult children arguing about their mother's estate. She promised me the house, one said. She promised me the stocks, the other replied. Neither of them seemed to consider that maybe their mother had made different plans. I smiled sadly. Some people never learn. I finished my coffee and stood up. Thank you, Grandma, I whispered. For seeing me when no one else did. For teaching me that showing up matters more than showing off. For trusting me with your legacy. I walked back to my car. Upgraded to a 2024 Subaru Outback, still modest, still practical. My phone buzzed. A text from my property manager. Tenant for property number 1 renewed lease. 3-year term. They love the house. I smiled. Property number 1. Grandma's first purchase back in 1978. Still providing someone with a home 47 years later. That's what real estate should be. Not a photo opportunity for Instagram. Not a future windfall to fantasize about. Not a source of embezzlement funds. A home. Security. Independence. The things Grandma Dorothy built her empire to provide. And the legacy I'd spend the rest of my life protecting. Exactly as she'd planned.